All right, so you guys need to pay attention here because this can get really confusing and I don't want you guys to get really frustrated. So I'm going to do an example of both the linear regression question, which you only have one to do, and then you'll see my next tab is the quadratic regression question, which you'll have 3 of those to do. So you only have 4 to do, but if you're not paying attention and you're not reading directions, then you're going to get very, very frustrated. So make sure you take your time and you pay attention to detail. So on the first one, which is linear regression, everybody, you're all going to have very different scenarios. Mine is a math teacher who wants to compare homework grades to test grades. Homework grades are the input, test grades are the output. So this math teacher is probably thinking the better you are at homework, the higher the test scores you'll get. It tells you to write the linear regression equation that represents this set of data, rounding all coefficients to the nearest hundredth. Here is where a lot of students mess up and they get really annoyed because they're not reading the directions and they round to the nearest tenth or they round to the nearest whole number. Then the second part, every question is going to have 2 things. It's going to tell you to write an equation and it's going to tell you to solve something. So the writing the equation is where that red box comes into play. Next thing, you're going to use the equation that you come up with and you're going to estimate. It's either going to ask you for an output or it's going to ask you for an input. So in this example, it wants me to estimate the homework grade to the nearest integer, which is a whole number, for a student with a test grade of 46. So they give you an output and they want you to find the input. Okay, so the first thing we do here is we look at this table. Now we could take this table, we could go to Desmos, plug it in, and then do all the linear regression stuff. Or let's just use the Delta Math calculator. It's not what we're used to, but it's going to make your life a lot easier. So first, copy the table. So you click on copy values. Now let's open the Delta Math calculator. And you'll see right before your eyes, it says paste values. Go ahead and paste. So I have just put my table into the Delta Math calculator. Now you're going to go up to edit lists or main menu, and we don't want to edit anything. We want to calculate. So you're going to click on calc menu. We want it to calculate the line of best fit because I need to try to find an equation that matches my table of values. So in the sub menu, you're going to click linear regression because I know it's linear. If you're confused about that, you don't know which one to choose, go back to your problem and you'll see at the very top, it says linear regression. So now going back to that calculator, all you have to do is just say calculate, and you'll see that it gives you the A and the B. Notice A is in place of M. We usually see MX plus B, but A means the same thing as M here. So I need to go back to my problem and make sure I'm reading the directions again. It says all coefficients round to the nearest hundredth. So I need to go back to my calculator, nearest hundredth. So my slope of my line will be 1.23. So before I forget, I'm going to go back down. I'm going to type in my equation. Remember, it's y equals mx plus b. Well, I know my slope is 1.23 now. And my y-intercept is negative 21.85 would be rounding to the nearest hundredth. So negative 21.85. So I'm going to take b out. You don't have to do that part. That was just for me. Negative 21.85. Okay. That is the line of best fit. Now they're asking you to take that line and let's interpret. What are they asking us here? They want to know, what is your input when your output is 46? What is your homework grade when your test grade is 46? I'm going to go ahead and copy this equation because I'm lazy. And now I'm going to go to Desmos and I'm going to paste that into the graphing calculator of Desmos so that it graphs the line for me. So if you can't see it, that doesn't mean you did anything wrong. You just maybe zoom out a little bit so you can find it. So it's asking me, test scores are my output. So if I go to my graph and I click on anywhere I want, that's going to mean my test score was 7%. My homework score is 23. My test score was 7. So here's the first way you could do this. You could just scroll along your line until you get a test score of 46. Or an easier way, if you go back to your question, it's saying, if the test score is 46, what is the homework score? So you can go back to Desmos and you can say, okay, well, I want my output to be 46. So you can create a line that represents the test score and just see where they intersect. That'll tell you exactly what your homework score is. So before I type that answer in, let's go back to the question. And it says, estimate the homework grade to the nearest integer, which means whole number. So I got 55.163, so my nearest whole number would be a 55. So I can go back to my question, type in 55, so a homework score of 55. This gives me a red X. Okay, thank goodness. All right, so that is the linear regression. I'm going to go ahead and delete out of that. Now these are the quadratic regression questions. You do everything very similarly. You just have a few more parts. So company X tried selling widgets at various prices to see how much profit they would make. So this table compares how much they sell an item for and how much profit they make. So if their items are only $10 each, they're going to make $218. If they up it to almost $30, they're going to make $387. So again, let's pay attention to the directions. We're going to round all coefficients to the nearest tenth this time. I can't even remember what the last one was. And then we're going to round the profit to the nearest dollar. They want to know, sorry guys, they want to know, using this equation, find the profit if we're selling for 33.5. So we're going to go through the same thing here. We're going to copy the table, and then we're going to open the calculator. We're going to paste the table. Instead of, we're still going to go to the calculate menu, but instead of linear regression, we're going to go to quadratic regression because this is a quadratic regression problem. How do you know that? Go back to your original question. It says it right up here. Okay. So now we're going to calculate. Notice that they give me A, B, and C this time because it's a quadratic equation. And they want us to round coefficients to the nearest tenth. So negative 2.95 for me, that means it's going to be negative 3.0. So y equals negative 3.0 x squared. Now I'm going to type in my b value, which is 125.4 x. And then on the end will be my c value, negative 747.2. Make sure you're following directions. I'm going to go back up and just verify, yes, that's to the 10th. Okay, now it's asking, use this equation to find the profit to the nearest dollar if the price per item was 33.5 or 33.50. So I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm going to copy this, go to Desmos, paste it, and then we want to know when is the input, or if the output, we want to know what the output is if the input is 33.50. So what you can do in Desmos, that means when is your input, or X, 33.50. So that's going to create a vertical line. And then we just need to go and see where they cross each other. So I'm getting close. And then Desmos is pretty good about knowing where the intersection is. So you can just click somewhere and then it'll highlight it for you. So when the item is 33.50, looks like my profit is going to be 86.95. What were the directions to the nearest dollar? So 86.95 would be $87. And you need to do 3 of these. Hope I get a green check. Okay, so watch this video as many times as you need to understand how to do it. Good luck.